So, you're ready to delve into the world of video presentations or video voiceovers. Let's talk about how you can improve your presentations using a few easy steps. First of all, try to find somewhere quiet without a lot of hard, flat surfaces. A great option for nice, clean recordings is to record in a bedroom and speak towards a mattress, or you can record in a closet full of clothes. This will help to absorb a lot of the sound reflections around you and improve the quality of your audio. Another option you have is to drape a blanket over the hard surfaces or around you and your microphone. Again, this is to cut back on the audio reflecting around and being picked up by the microphone. When selecting a microphone, do your best to avoid using a laptop microphone. If you absolutely have no other option, then you can make it work, but again, try to make sure you're in a very, very quiet space with lots of soft stuff around you to absorb reflections. Also, make sure that you speak close to the laptop so that the laptop's able to pick up more of your voice and less of the room reflections around you. Ideally, using an external USB microphone, or if you have access to one, an XLR microphone, will give you the highest quality recording. Something like this, or like this, is going to sound a lot better than your laptop microphone. Your next best option is to use a good headset microphone, or a set of earbuds. The microphones on these, again, are much better designed to pick up voice than a laptop microphone is. XLR microphones like this are going to be the highest quality audio recordings and make it a lot easier for you to post-process your audio. Your next best option is to use your smartphone. Most modern smartphones are going to have a much better microphone in them than your laptop will. Make sure to speak at an appropriate distance from your microphone. You don't want it right up in your face. You want it a little bit away. You can use the built-in audio recorder that comes with your smartphone. However, I recommend getting a third-party application either from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, as those are going to give you the option to have audio level metering. Audio level metering lets you see how loud your audio is and make sure that you're not clipping or peaking out the microphone. You'll see this if your voice starts to go into the red on the bar. It means that it's not picking up your voice anymore. You've maxed out the audio sensitivity of the microphone. Always make sure to take a sample recording to check the audio quality before recording your entire voiceover. And finally, I recommend making a script with exactly what you want to say before doing your recording. An easy way to do this is to make a rough recording where you just speak your thoughts and use a speech-to-text converter like Otter.ai or Google Cloud Speech-to-Text to make a document that you can edit. After you've edited the text, you can load it into a teleprompter app on your iPad or just put it up on your computer monitor to read off. When it comes to recording your actual video, make sure to record your video or export your images at least 1080p resolution. Smartphones are a great option for high-quality video recordings. You can set most smartphones to record in either 2K or 4K, which you can then scale down to 1080p in your video editor. This will allow you to have an easier time editing while retaining much of the detail of the higher quality recording. The most important thing you should consider for video is setting up a good lighting source. You can use a window and drape a sheet over it to diffuse the light, or a bright lamp. But try to have the light coming from in front of you and a little bit to the side rather than directly to the side or from behind you. If you have access to multiple lights, you can use one light as your key light and a second light to fill the shadows. For example, here's how we can use a dual light source to set up a good looking recording. So without any light, you can see that it's very hard to see my face. The camera's going to have a hard time focusing. Turning on one light, which we'll call my key light, provides enough light to show details on my face, but keeps the other side of my face in shadow. To eliminate that, you can add in a second light source. Now you can see that that's filled in the shadows. Now, if you have access to a very bright room, it's going to improve the quality of your recording. It will record less noise with your video. So in this case, because I'm in a room where I can turn on overhead lights in addition, I'm going to do that. Now we can see that with the overhead lights and my video lights, I'm very well lit, but I still have some shadows underneath to give a more appealing look. Without the video lights, you can see that everything is just dull and muted and it doesn't show much detail. You really want to make sure that you add in that detail to the face to make your subject pop. If you have access to a third light, you can even have a light placed behind you that lights the back of your hair. We call this a hair light, and it's going to separate you from your background a little bit better. When recording your videos, you have many options for how you want to do this. You can have live video and audio either recorded on your phone, through a video camera, or through a computer application such as OBS. Or you can record B-roll and use images to go with a voiceover recording. In many cases, a combination of these techniques will be the best to maintain your audience's attention. Once you've recorded all of your video and audio, it's time to bring it into an editing software such as Davinci Resolve, which is available for free on Mac, PC, and Linux. In Resolve, you'll be able to edit your video as well as apply some simple audio processing to make your audio sound more professional. Let's take a look at how we can export high-quality slides from PowerPoint as well as do some simple editing for video and audio in Davinci Resolve. We're going to talk about how you can export high-quality images from Microsoft PowerPoint. This works a little bit differently depending on whether you're on a Mac or a PC. On Mac, you're simply going to go to File, Export, give the file a name, and then choose PNG as the format. You can then set your resolution. Common resolutions you might want to use are 1920 by 1080, 2560 by 1440 or 2K, and 3840 by 2160 or 4K. To export high-resolution images from PowerPoint on a PC, there's going to be a few more steps than with the Mac version. First, you want to exit all Windows-based applications. Then you can click on the Start menu and type in REG. Click on the Registry Editor app, and it'll open up the registry for you to edit. Now, locate one of the following registry subkeys depending on the version of PowerPoint that you're using. You'll want to start with HKey Current User, Software, Microsoft, Office, and then depending on which version of PowerPoint you have, it'll either be 16, 15, 14, 12, or 11. In this case, since I have Office 365, I'm going to use 16, PowerPoint, and then select the Options folder. Within the Options subkey, we're now going to create a new D word. So right-click, New, and go to D word 32-bit value. Label this Export Bitmap Resolution, capitalizing each word but not separating the words. Now double-click on the D word. Select Decimal. And now depending on the resolution you want, if you want 1080p, put in 144. If you want 2K, put in 192. And if you want 4K, put in 288. I like to default to 2K as it can be downscaled to 1080p or upscaled to 4K if needed. Now open up your PowerPoint presentation and you can go to File, Save As, choose a location and title it, and go to Save Type As, and here you're going to want to choose PNG. Now it'll ask you if you want to export all slides or just this one. If you only want the individual slide, in this case the first slide, you can click just this one. If you want to export the entire presentation, select all slides. Now we can open this up, look at the properties of the slide, and we can see that we've exported in 2K or 2560 by 1440. So once you've opened Davinci Resolve, you can go to the Media tab, which is the first tab on the left. And then under your media storage, navigate to the folder that has the slides or videos that you want to add. If you're loading in slides, it's automatically going to visualize them as a slide presentation. So if you select the slide presentation, go to the three dots in the right-hand corner of the media storage tab and select Show Individual Frames. This will let you add each slide to your media pool separately. Then you can go over to the third tab, which is the Edit tab. From here, you can drag in your first slide onto the timeline, and then you're able to stretch this slide or use the Cut tool to clip it wherever you want. And if you're on a PC, make sure that you press backspace instead of delete. That will keep everything in place. If you click delete, it will automatically roll all of the video and audio that's beyond the slide to the current location. So once you've chosen how long you want each of your slides to be, you can either do this by synchronizing it to a separate audio clip, or you can go into the Fairlight tab, which looks like a little music note. So on the right-hand side, under the Mixer tab, you'll see a box that says Input. Click where it says No Input, and select Input, and then add your microphone by clicking on it and select the output channels. So here I have my one microphone input, and I'm selecting my audio left and right for the first channel, and then click Patch. Now your microphone is going to be recording to both channels, so you'll have stereo audio connection. The next thing you're going to want to do is arm for recording by selecting the R, And now you'll hear that your audio is playing back through your speakers when you talk through your microphone. So mute the playback, and now you can talk through your microphone without it playing back through your speakers. When you're ready to do your voiceover, simply click on the record button, and you can talk, read out your script, and as soon as you're done your entire script, you can click the stop button, and that will create your audio clip. Now, if you go back to your timeline view under the Edit tab, you'll see that the audio has been added, and you can now just drag your slides to fit with the audio. So once you've added in all of your slides and cut up your audio, and don't worry if you make mistakes in your audio, just keep recording. You can go back and use the cut tool to remove sections of your audio that you don't want. Remember, if you're on a PC, to click backspace instead of delete. If you click delete, it's going to shift everything on you. So remove the sections of audio that you don't want, stretch your slides to fit, and keep going until you've gone through the whole video. If you do want to add transitions, this can be done easily. A good way to do this is to have your video, or in this case slides, on separate tracks. You can then go over to the effects library and choose video transitions, and just drag a transition onto the clip, and it'll cross dissolve now between these two slides. Once you've finished editing the audio to match your slides, you can go back into the Fairlight tab. Once you've recorded all of your audio, you can go through the post-processing. Now, there's a couple ways this can be done. If you want to record directly in Davinci like this, if you're not going to use your smartphone or you're not going to record in an external recording app, then you can actually add in some pre-effects. So on the Mixer tab, if you click on the plus under Effects, you can go to Noise Reduction, select Noise Reduction, and turn on Auto Speech Mode. So this will now use an algorithm to determine when you're speaking, and when you're not speaking, it'll cut out the background noise. Next, you can click on the Dynamics box. So where it says Dynamics, double click on this little graph, and we're going to activate a compressor. So what you want to do is activate your compressor, leave the threshold and ratio settings the same, and then talk into your microphone and adjust the makeup gain until your voice is just below the red. So for me, I don't need to really add much makeup gain, but if your voice is a little bit lower, you can add makeup gain, and you'll see this shifts our curve up. If you see anything that's red at the top of the graph, you need to bring your makeup gain down a little bit, or you can increase the ratio. So here we're starting with a default ratio of 2. If you find that that's not enough, if you're talking quietly at some points and louder at other points, you can jack this up to about 4. That's a pretty good ratio where you're not going to end up introducing any artifacts. But now you'll see that my voice is not going to be going quite as high, even with this makeup gain, so I can add a little bit more makeup gain. Now this is a good setting to start with for your voice recording if you're recording directly into Davinci. So you can do that, record your audio track, make sure that you have your script prepared so everything you're saying is exactly as you want to say it. Again, if you make mistakes, not a big deal. Just keep going and pick it up again. A good way to indicate where you've made mistakes is to use something like a dog training clicker or snap, so that it's really easy to see the waveform where you've made the mistake. Once you've finished your audio recording, you can again press stop. And now we're ready to do some post-processing. So since I've got this track here that already has noise reduction and compression built in, we'll delete the original track that I made. And now we're going to apply some EQ. So EQ is an equalizer, and this is going to let us remove some of the resonant frequencies in the audio and make it sound a little bit cleaner. So double click on the EQ, which will load up this tab. Start off by applying your high pass filter, which is under band 1. And adjust that up to about 80 hertz. If you have a very deep voice, you can start that a little bit lower, around 70 hertz. If you have a very high voice, you can start that at about 100 hertz. Now, with band 2, which is going to be our first adjustment, we're going to select the peak method, and that's going to be the second option down here. And what we want to do is we want to adjust our Q factor. So adjusting the Q factor is going to change how broad or narrow the band it's adjusting is. So in this case, we're going to adjust our Q factor way up. This is going to give us a nice sharp peak. Now what we'll do is we'll sweep through the audio, listening for any unpleasant sounds. Once we find an unpleasant sound, we'll reduce the gain of that sound to probably about -6 to -9 decibels, and then we'll adjust the Q factor to be a little bit broader and make a nice smooth transition where we're editing our sounds out. So let's have a listen to what we hear. Before you do this, either disarm your recording by selecting the R, or mute the microphone by dragging your slider all the way to the bottom here, and then turn your audio channel back on so you can monitor your audio. So now you'll sweep across and listen for any unpleasant sounds. Pick it up again. A good way to indicate where you've made mistakes is to use something like a dog training clicker. So there we can hear a little bit of an underwater sound. So we'll keep in mind that around 253 hertz or snap, so that it's really easy to see the waveform. And there's a really gross sounding sound. So we really don't want to have that hollow / tinny sound in there. So let's listen to that again. Make sure that you have your script prepared so everything you're saying is exactly as you want to say. Okay, so we had one around 253, so we'll pull that out first, and this one's around 516, so we'll go to 253. And we're just going to reduce the gain down to about -6, and we'll broaden that out a little bit so it's a nice smooth transition. And then we'll grab band 3, go back to where we were at about 500 hertz, and we'll pull that down as well. So now let's listen to what our audio sounds like. Make sure that you have your script prepared so everything you're saying is exactly as you want to say it. Again, now we'll check for more unpleasant sounds and continue doing this until you've used up all bands. You might only need 1 or 2, or you might need all 4 to pull out the resonant frequencies. If you make mistakes, not a big deal. Just keep going and pick it up again. A good way to indicate where you've made mistakes is to use something like a dog training clicker or snap, so that it's really easy to see the waveform. So it looks like most of the unpleasant sounds are right between the 200 to 800 hertz range. So what we can do is we can just bring this down to the 0 point. We'll move our band 3 across a little bit, and we'll just broaden it out. Now finally, we're going to add in our low pass filter for a deeper voice. Set your cutoff to about 10,000 hertz. If you have a higher voice, you might need to set it up to about 12 or 13,000 hertz. Now let's listen to the audio. Audio track, make sure that you have your script prepared so everything you're saying is exactly as you want to say it. And you can hear the difference by turning the equalizer on and off while it's playing. Track, make sure that you have your script prepared so everything you're saying is exactly as you want to say it. Again, if you make mistakes, not a... So you'll hear that we've pulled out that sort of vibrating resonant frequency and cleaned up the audio so that it's a lot easier to listen to. You're now ready to start cutting up the audio for your video. I recommend doing all of the audio processing with the whole file so that you don't need to add the EQ to each clip. You can just process the whole thing and then go in and cut up your audio to match your slides. So now we can go in here and let's just assume that we're going to want this section of audio here. So we can press backspace to delete in place. Or if we want everything to move with it on a PC, you can click delete. But that's going to change the length of all of your clips. So as long as you keep in mind which method you're trying to do, make sure you click backspace if you want to delete in place, and delete if you want to ripple delete. Now you can make your slides fit your audio tracks using the razor tool to cut, and then make sure that you grab the arrow tool to delete anything. Drag each slide to match the length that you want. And if you want to add in any transitions, you can just have the slides overlap a little bit, select your effects library, go to video transitions, and drag the appropriate transition onto the slides. Just keep going and pick it up. Once you're happy with your edits, in this case, we're just going to stop this here. You can move to the Deliver tab, which looks like a little rocket ship. I recommend just going with the YouTube 1080p default unless you have a reason to export it in higher resolution. Enter a name for it, and then select your location by clicking on Browse. Okay, then you're going to add to render queue and start render. Depending on how long your video is and how fast your computer is, this might take a very long time or it could go relatively quickly. So you're now ready to start doing your presentation. Make sure that you take some sample recordings beforehand to ensure that your microphone quality is okay. And if you're going to be using a combination of video and presentation slides from PowerPoint or other images, I recommend dragging your video in first to set the timeline, frame rate, and resolution, and then adding your pictures to it after that.